Welcome everyone to tonight's regular council session. Today is Tuesday, June 23rd. I am Mayor Lisa. Welcome to those who are in the gallery and those admin attending and those who are watching online. We officially call this meeting to order at 6:04 p.m. And we will start off tonight. We've got a number of things to cover tonight, so we're going to get right into it. And first of all, acknowledge that we are very grateful to be able to be on this land that we live and work on, and to honor those who came before us. We value the enduring relationships that we have with our French pioneers and the Indigenous peoples who continue to share their history, knowledge, and culture with our community. We're also very thankful for the generations whose dedication and faith have helped shape this community into this beautiful, vibrant city that we call Beaumont. As we go through our agenda, Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda, first of all?
Thank you, Mayor. Administration does not have any changes to the agenda this evening.
Okay, so we will need a councillor to adopt.
I move that the June 23rd, 2026 regular council agenda be adopted as presented.
Any discussion? Okay, we'll vote. And there it is. All right, moving along here to open forum. Madam Clerk, do we have any open forum?
Thank you, Mayor. We do not have any open forum registrations this evening.
Thank you. And consent agenda. Would you, I'll have you read out the consent agenda, and then councillors, I know there's a few of you want to pull something, so we'll do that after we read it out.
Thank you. Agenda for council's consideration, that council consent to approve the following agenda items without debate. The regular council meeting minutes, that council accept the meetings of June 9th, 2026, regular council meeting as presented. That council accept the meeting minutes of the June 16th, 2026 special council meeting as presented. That council the School Resource Officer Program, that the June 23rd, 2026 School Resource Officer Program report be received as information. Item 6.4, Centreville 2-hour street parking, that the June 23rd, 2026 report, Centreville 2-hour street parking be received as information. Item 6.5, Transit Services Report, that the June 23rd, 2026 Transit Services Report 2026 be received as information. And item 11.1, the public member appointments, that the appointment and term as set out in the June 23rd, 2026 public members appointment report be approved, and that the report remain confidential pursuant to sections 20 and 34 of the Access to Information Act until applicants are informed.
Thank you. Councillor Cole-Smith, did you want to pull something?
I'd like to remove item 6.5, the Transit Services Report, please.
Thank you. And then Councillor Tellenboss?
Thank you, Mayor. 6.3 SRO program for myself, please.
Anything else, Council? Okay, so we'll remove those two items from consent agenda with the new adapted list here. We will need a councillor to make a motion to accept our consent agenda. Councillor Penrod?
Thanks, Mayor. I move the acceptance of the consent agenda as amended.
Any discussion? We'll vote. To the first item in our business, which is 6.1, and I believe Ms. Cuthbert, you're going to present the gift.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. I'm pleased to bring forward Council's strategic plan, strengthening our community together. This plan has been developed through a thoughtful process over the past several months. It began in November with Council's online survey, which helped gather initial input and perspective from each Council member. In February, Council participated in an online workshop to begin shaping the direction of the plan. That work continued through the 2-day Council workshop held on March 4th and 5th. The goal of that session was to identify the key themes and priorities that would form the foundation of the plan. From March until June, administration has worked through the drafting process, incorporating Council's feedback, edits, and direction along the way. This included several rounds of review to make sure the plan reflected Council's priorities. The result is a strong, well-thought-out plan that sets clear direction for the future. If approved today, administration's next step will be to begin aligning the corporate business plan, department work plans, and reporting processes to support the implementation of council's commitments. Administration appreciates the time, discussion, and direction that went into its development, and we look forward to supporting the work ahead. I'm happy to take any questions or feedback.
Any councillors have any feedback? We're just so giddy. We're excited. We're excited. So for those who are watching online or in the gallery, this is when there's newly elected officials at the beginning of the term. The councillors come together and decide on what the priorities are going to be for the next 4 years, which is called our council strategic plan. And that is what Ms. Cuthbert just talked about, that we actually finalized it. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to go to Councillor Van Newkirk and then Councillor Tellenbos.
Yeah, thank you. One of the common questions that I've seen pop up in the community lately is, when did you gather the feedback for this? And I just want to speak to that a little bit. So first of all, I'll say the council is always listening. Councillor Hyde and I took a meeting with a resident this morning for an hour. 4 of us went to the ribbon cutting and grand opening of the health center on the south side this afternoon, and everyone goes to all their meetings and committees and such. But the gathering of the feedback starts back on the campaign trail when you decide if you're going to run, and you talk to people, and collectively in this room we for sure hit every door in Beaumont, maybe twice. We've put our literature out there. There was meetings, there was coffees, there was everything during that campaign. Fast forward to getting elected, and there's a lot of people who are excited and they want to talk to you, and they do. The conversations continue, on the soccer field. They continue on the weekends. They continue at the pool. They continue in the community. So I would say that feedback solicitation and gathering doesn't end, and the summation of all of that feedback is what you see in front of you. So, so when the feedback for this ended was the day that we said yes, and now it's here. Community insight and engagement will continue beyond this, but I just really wanted to hit the when did you gather feedback for that question, because it was quite common in the community. So I hope that suffices for those who have asked those questions. And I don't mean it to be glib. I just mean, this group is committed to hearing from the community and is putting in the time to do that. And I think that there's been a good job done. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Yes, it's really important for people to know that. Councillor Tellenbos.
Thank you, Councillor Van Newkirk, for bringing that forward. I was going to mention that, but in addition to that, I was going to mention, or at least highlight, some of the process that follows that. So obviously banging on the doors, getting the information from community members was the most important part of this campaign. And then secondary to that, we were basically, as councillors, thrown into a room for 48 hours, throw the key out, and then come up with this strategy or with this plan. So it took a lot of, maybe I'm not in alignment with that, but we need to come to terms, we need to agree, we need to come up with a strategy, and this is the strategy. So as a whole, council and mayor, this is the plan we have in place for the community, and again, primarily based off of the feedback we received from the community. So appreciate all the feedback that we did receive, but B, this is the way we're going, but always want to continuously receive that feedback, because if there is an issue or a gap that wasn't noted, obviously we're always all ears to make sure that we can adjust that if required.
Thank you for that, Councillor Tellenbos. Yes, not there. Playing button tag here. One of the things that I just want to add to that is when we did come together in that closed door room, that we shared what we had been hearing from people, all the things, whether it be on the campaign trail or in our meetings or out in the community. We're all involved in the community in different ways, and we all distilled it down to the common threads that we were hearing that were the predominant needs of our community, predominant themes, and that's where this strategic plan came into play as a priority to be able to put into place. So thank you so much for all the work that my colleagues have done, that we've worked together to get to this place to clarify, and we're excited. We're excited to work with the administration to execute on that. Ms. Cuthbert, anything else that you want to share with us?
No, that's it. That's all of my presentation tonight.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Penrod. Do you have a question?
No, Mayor, just wanted to move the motion.
Absolutely, fantastic.
Just while we're bringing it up, I'll just say, only other thing that we did as your council was approve at budget the two things we heard the most loud and clear during the last election which was that the municipal development plan and the land use bylaw both needed full-scale rethinks. And so we funded that, and now this strategic plan puts that down into that pencil into pen, so to speak. So I'm happy to move that the 2026-2030 Council Strategic Plan, Strengthening Our Community Together, as presented in Attachment 1 of the June 23rd, 2026 Council Agenda, be approved.
Any discussion? We'll vote. Okay. All right, we're going to move now to school resource officer. Nope, oh, sorry, that was the one. I thought, didn't you not pull that? Did you pull that?
Yes, it's 6.2.
Oh, did I move? I'm sorry. 6.2, let's go. My apologies. I had checked it off before it was checked off. If you wouldn't mind just, go ahead and just sharing your name, that'd be awesome.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. My name is Maureen Deverden. I'm the Manager of Accounting Services and Financial Reporting. Tonight, I'm here to present a request for property tax exemption for Beyond Childcare and Family Society. The MGA and the Community Organization Property Tax Exemption Regulation outlines the requirements needed to be met in order to qualify for a property tax exemption. The analysis of these conditions was included in Attachment 1. So the organization has met all except one of the required conditions. It's been verified by administration that a portion of the assessed property is leased and operated by the applicant, which is a nonprofit organization as per their incorporation under the Societies Act. The organization also does have a valid license to operate a program premises as defined by the Early Learning and Child Care Act. There are also no restrictions to accessibility. While they have provided their 2025 financial statements for review, they began operations early this year, so administration was unable to verify the criteria that the funds of the nonprofit organization were chiefly used for the purposes of the organization and not for the benefit of the organization's directors and employees. It's anticipated that these financial statements later this year we should be able to verify that information. Therefore, since most of the criteria has been met, administration is recommending that the property exemption be approved, pending that all requirements are met. This would allow the municipality to grant the property tax exemption on the portion of the assessed building before June 30th until such time that the 2026 financial statements can be produced to meet the final condition. This would avoid administration of penalties. Alternatively, the matter could be delayed for council consideration once the applicant is able to demonstrate meeting all of the requirements of the regulation.
Thank you so much for that. I do believe that we have a motion. Councillor Van Newkirk?
Yeah, administration, I'd like to move a motion here, if you wouldn't mind putting it up, please.
It's okay, okay.
I would move that the decision on the 2026 and 2027 property tax exemption application submitted by the Beyond Childcare and Family Society be deferred to a future council meeting pending administration's receipt and review of all the required supporting documentation.
Thank you. Any discussion on this?
Yeah, I'll speak to that briefly. One of the things that I value is administration's time. And when incomplete documents of any kind come to administration, the first thing that happens is a review and then a back and forth. And time after time after time, incomplete documentation is received by administration and it requires back and forth. So if we were in a situation where this was complete now, then I see that as a good use of time. Then we vote on it and we move it forward. Here today, all but, right? And I think that it's best practice to put together a complete package. So that's my statement on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Van Newkirk. Any discussion from any councillors? All right, so we'll go to a vote. Did everyone vote? Okay, sorry. Carried unanimously. So we will defer this. Thank you so much. Officer, and I believe that's Chief Melvin.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Chief Melvin, Director of Protective Services. I'll be providing some feedback on the School Resource Officer Program. As you can see in the report, administration did meet with the school boards. We've had several discussions at a superintendent level and more deeper dive with superintendents and both from all three school divisions, along with teachers and admin staff. The details are in the report, and administration is here to answer any questions that council may have.
Awesome, thank you. Councillor Tellenboss?
Thank you, Chief Melvin, for bringing this forward. Reason I pulled it, I just want everyone to be knowledgeable about the progress that we've seen in terms of even simple discussions with school boards. But I do just have a few questions around the costing side. I know this is preliminary and it becomes a budget discussion come time, but there's a big gap between the 130 and 250,000. I'm just hoping you could shed some light on what both packages provide or what that looks like. Again, preliminary.
Through the mayor to council and Tellenboss, obviously the 130,000 is the rate for a CPO level 1 community peace officer. The 250,000 is an RCMP member. That includes the RCMP members' full package, considerable to be a general duty officer. It's just that they would be employed, and it's budgeted that way when you, in theory, order an extra member. This is a cost for a regular RCMP member, which includes a variety of different things on the multi-year financial plan and what it takes to get one qualified RCMP member and what that FTE cost is.
Perfect, thank you. Second to that, there's conversation in this report that the recommendation through some of the school boards is that we have a combined solution, which would combine those costs. Again, becomes a budget conversation, but are you able to speak more to the benefits of having CPO plus a police officer versus just one or the other?
Through the mayor to councilor and Tellenboss, there's a significant financial impact to supporting this program. Right now, we've had preliminary discussions with the school boards. We are going to continue the discussions post this meeting on what type of those financial models may look like, and if school boards are open to contributing to that. A lot of the part of the meeting is we were trying to figure out what exactly the deliverables you're looking for from this program, so we can measure to see if the effort that the municipality is putting in is actually seeing something in the schools. The intent is not to have a SRO, CPO, and an RCMP member. In this report is to give you the details of what each other's parameters are within their scope of practice and what they can enforce. Obviously, as an RCMP member, you have everything. The CPO SROs are a little less when it comes to community peace officers. There is benefits to both. Obviously, having one versus the other, everybody would like to have an RCMP member to have all of that stuff. That comes with its challenges also just from a staffing perspective when it comes to the RCMP. But an SRO does provide a value input, and there are several municipalities that have SROs, including the City of Leduc has an SRO in the schools. So what is unique to this one, before SROs were primarily in high schools, now there seems to be reach out that we need some SROs in elementary schools and even younger grades. We have a lot of folks that are new to the community, new to Canada, and having SROs in the school to provide that support and education and what policing kind of looks like and what a peace officer does in the community. All those things are obviously all good. So we do know that with all the schools that we have in there, and one SRO, irrelevant of which position it's filled by, is going to be stretched pretty thin, but there's enough demand there that I think it's easily a full-time equivalent position, and even more. Right now, we need to provide a more of a concept of what a pilot program would look like, up to 3 years, and say, here it is, but really what we're trying to figure out so that we can bring back to council is, how do we know it's working? And that's the big piece that we're trying to figure out. So the meetings were very interesting in what's actually the concerns now in the schools, and I'm sure everybody's well aware of folks that have kids in schools and what the challenges are there. They're a lot more complex than they used to be. The SRO program is a vital piece, but we need to be able to provide council with the full concept of what that looks like, including any type of funding models from the school boards. The benefit that we do have is that they're all on board with the communication and dialogue that we've had so far. So that's a fantastic thing, and they're looking to continue that in the future.
Perfect, thank you. I do have 2 more, but I only want 1 more if I can, please, Mayor, just on this topic.
One more, and then I'm going to go to Councilor
Thank you.
Van Nieuwkerk. Yeah.
So appreciate the comments. As you had mentioned, there has been a lot of change in terms of what we're seeing in school, whether it's violence, whether it's drugs, whether it's other issues. So appreciate you bringing that forward. And most recently, some very close communities have ran through scenarios like that. Second to that, I just have a question around what was mentioned in terms of the 2 options. We have CPO, we have CPO, and we have obviously RCMP. Is there an opportunity with the existing MOU for potentially ASPS to be an option?
Through the mayor to Councillor Van Nieuwkerk, we did not discuss any ASPS option as to date. We have yet to have those meetings with ASPS to see what availability is at. If that is an option, we would definitely bring that back to council in further dialogue. But right now, I don't have that information.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll go to Councilor Van Nieuwkerk.
Yeah, thank you. Besides being a significant financial decision, as was just highlighted by admin, finding the right community fit is of utmost importance. Is of utmost importance as an outcome of the recruiting efforts. Since this item's been pulled, I really want to highlight to the community that, if this were to be funded in Budget 2027, the recruiting is going to take some time. And again, if it was approved in some way in that budget, I hope the community conversation would focus on, have you found the right fit yet, versus why isn't that position filled yet? Not presupposing the future, but hoping to direct the conversation, because community and fit is what is going to be important here. So, thank you.
Thank you for that. I just want to also remind council that we are on this 2-minute rule. The clock is up there as I'm navigating it, and keep an eye on that for your time as well. So we will go to Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. A question for you, Director Melvin. If we were to have a successful position, whatever it was, RCMP or peace officer, is this going to be a dedicated role, and that person would only be doing this role unless perhaps maybe an emergency or something like that?
Through the mayor to Councillor Murray, the intent is that the SRO position is the SRO, dedicated to the schools. There is some deliverables that are there. When schools are not in session, there's other avenues that the SRO program would entail, even including dealing with our youth after hours, a variety of different things. That's why we had the meeting with the school boards and the principals to tell us what deliverables that you're actually looking for. Schools operate on a variety of different schedules and up into the evenings, and that's why we believe that right now there's more than enough time that would detail that. But this position is dedicated SRO and would assist also in any of the enforcement in and around schools, and that the public would see a constant face there every morning, building that relationship, not only with the SROs, but with our peace officer program here in the city. And that's a win also for us, just on optics, on how we interact and communicate with the residents and providing them as much information as possible. So,
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't see any other questions here. Thank you so much, Chief Melvin. motion to receive this as information. Councillor Talambas.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the June 23, 2026 School Resource Officer Program Report be received as information.
And no discussion. We'll go to a vote. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Which was pulled from consent. And do we have someone who is going to do presentation on that? The microphone? Thank you. All right.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilors, and the public. I am Ryan Orlovsky, Manager of Administration, was directed to return with a report on transit services, and this evening I'll be providing that information. So tonight's presentation will include a brief background on Beaumont Transit, a review of ridership trends, an overview of potential transit schedule adjustment options, and I'll also speak to the 50th Street Ellerslie road stop adjustment, provide an update on transit bus liquidation, and outline the status of transit advertising opportunities. Beaumont Transit launched in January 2018, initially operating a weekday peak service from 6 to 9 a.m. and from 4 to 6 p.m. for a total of 5 service hours per day. Service was suspended in May 2020 due to the pandemic and resumed in August 2021 with the same schedule. In April 2024, Council approved an expansion to full weekday service from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., along with weekend service from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., operating at 40-minute frequencies. Due to increased congestion, construction, and road conditions on 50th Street, service frequency was adjusted for the current year to improve on-time performance. Frequencies are now 46 minutes in the morning and 56 minutes in the afternoon to better align with traffic conditions. Ridership in the early years was strong, with approximately 23,000 riders in 2018 and 25,000 in 2019. Ridership declined significantly after the pandemic, with only about 6,000 riders in 2022, the first full year after service resumed. In 2023, ridership began to slightly recover, reaching over 9,000 passengers. Following the service expansion in April 2024, ridership increased significantly to 29,000 annual trips, which is an increase of 205% from the previous year. Growth has continued into 2025, with ridership exceeding 40,000 passengers. This represents a 320% increase since the expansion and marks the highest ridership in Beaumont Transit's history. This slide outlines the current transit schedule along with 3 potential adjustment options, including associated costs, revenue, and the net tax impacts. So option 1 maintains the current weekday service, but removes weekend service, resulting in an estimated net tax impact reduction of $51,000. Option 2 shifts the weekday peak service only, operating from 6 to 10 a.m. and 3 to 7 p.m., reducing the net tax impact by approximately $57,000. Option 3 follows the same weekday peak schedule as option 2 while introducing Saturday service from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. This option reduces the net tax impact by approximately $31,500. Administration recommends maintaining the current transit schedule. As the City of Beaumont continues to grow, the demand for transit services is expected to increase. Well, as shown in the table, anticipated savings associated with reducing service levels would be minimal. Should Council wish to pursue transit service reductions to lower operating costs, administration would then recommend proceeding with option 1. Currently, more than 90% of total ridership occurs during weekdays, with weekend service accounting for less than 10% of overall ridership. This option would reduce the net tax impact with Beaumont while minimizing the overall impact on transit users and maintaining service during the highest demand periods. The stop at 50th Street and Ellerslie Road has been changed from a scheduled stop to a by request only stop. This adjustment was implemented alongside the recent schedule changes to improve service reliability and better align operations with the current traffic conditions. The City of Beaumont had purchased our transit fleet through the Green Trip Transit Initiatives program, known as Green Trip. This program provided approximately 67% or 1.12 million in funding for the transit buses. Essentially, the city had purchased one bus and received 3. The Green Trip program has conditions as it relates to ownership of these assets. The program requires that the city maintain title and ownership of these assets until 2029. The city is not permitted to sell or lease any of the buses prior to that time. Lastly, I'll go over the transit advertising. So administration has been actively exploring advertising opportunities to generate additional transit revenue. The transit media kit is currently under development, which will outline the available advertising formats, technical specifications, and associated rates. The media kit will highlight the reach and visibility of each platform, including interior bus cards, windows, taillights, and bus shelters. Administration will implement a rollout plan that includes targeted communications to promote advertising opportunities with Beaumont Transit. And administration is anticipating that transit advertising to be in place before the end of 2026. Thank you for your time tonight. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I'm going to open it up to Councillor Colesmith to start us off here.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks for the presentation. I pulled it off consent, not because I thought there was anything wrong with it, but just because I had a couple of questions. I recognize it was for information, the report is for information, but it does provide a few options for future consideration. And when it comes time to have those, what I don't see in the report is the percent capacity. You know, we show the ridership, but not what the maximum capacity is and where we sit as far as, percentage utilization. And, what are the peak times throughout the day? If we're looking at cutting certain times in one of the options, what are the peak times throughout the day? And the cost per person per trip and what that might look like with an increase or decrease in ridership. And also, if possible, I think there's 6 different fare options available, whether it's an ARC pass or a U pass. If we have any information on which ones they're being more heavily used versus others, or if there are any numbers on that, would be very helpful too.
Mayor, if I may, for that analysis and for that information that Councillor Colesmith is wishing to have would be a notice of motion that we would bring that back as part of budget. I'd be happy to work with Councillor Colesmith for a later meeting. We could draft a motion for you.
I would love that. Yes, please.
Perfect, thank you.
Awesome. Just to add to that, and then I'll go to Councillor Van Newkirk. Thank you for bringing that up. In terms of the data, like during the day, do we have any data as to how many riders we have during the day outside of peak hours? I think that would be helpful information as well. If we do, if we don't, that's all we can do about it. And then the other one was notice that in Q1 2026 there was a dip in the ridership significantly. Wondering if you know why, what you attribute that to?
I'm sorry, Mayor, could you repeat that? When did you see the dip?
If I read it correctly, there was in Q1 of 2026, there was a dip in the ridership, down, a decrease?
Yeah, I believe, sorry. Yeah, through to the mayor. We changed the schedule in Q1 to reduce the frequency of trips, so we believe that contributed to a reduction in ridership.
You changed the frequency? Okay, thank you. Councillor Van Newkirk?
Yeah, thank you. Since the item has been pulled, just a bigger picture question regarding the Green Trip requirements extending to 2029. And I don't know if you have this knowledge or not, but I'll ask it anyways. Does the current operational lifespan of the 3 buses we have extend to 2029 right now?
Through the mayor to Councillor Van Newkirk. We are expecting the buses to last until that time. Luckily, because we have 3 buses, we're alternating them as much as we can to extend their life. So we do believe that they'll make it to that time, but that'll be the end of their life for sure.
And that's exactly where I was going, is that the end of this 2029 is effectively end of life for the 3 buses, right? So there's not really an opportunity there for anything. That's just big picture information that I think it's important for the room, the public, and council to understand. Thank you.
Great question. Councillor Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the report. Now that it has been pulled, I think it's definitely good information to have just going forward. I did want to ask a question that was suggested to me. With any alterations in service, what does that look like with us having a space at the Millwoods bus depot right now?
Through the mayor to Councillor Murray, we would have to make those arrangements with the City of Edmonton and ETS, but they have been very accommodating so far to us making those changes, so I believe that we shouldn't have any issues with that.
Okay, so then what I understood is that there is quite a time frame sometimes to be able to get the slot that we have right now. Is that the case? Like if we were to change, does that affect how?
Through the mayor to Councillor Murray, yeah, we'd have to work with ETS to make sure that there's no other buses that are going to be using that terminal at the time. So we'd make those arrangements when we make the schedule with any of these changes. So right now, the current schedule that we provided are just rough estimates, but if we follow the same schedules we do now during those times, then we also shouldn't have any issues.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Back to Councillor Colesmith.
Yeah, thank you. Just about the advertising, glad to see we're looking at that. Have we looked at that in the past, or was there a challenge doing so in the past?
Through the mayor to Councillor Colesmith, I can't speak on the history of that. I personally do not know if there was any transit initiatives, advertising initiatives in the past, but I'm not sure if anyone else can speak to that.
Councillor, sorry, I'm going to go to CAO. I believe there was some.
Yeah, I can help. At one point, the advertising was handed over to the chamber, and this was beginning, like 9 years ago, as an experiment, as a pilot to see if they could get some slots. It didn't have a whole lot of luck. So we've now taken that over and we'll try and be more successful. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Councillor Net-Tellenbos.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question on cost recovery. Just looking at the numbers that are posted here, so we're looking at current at 754, revenue about 145, 609 net impact. So about a 19.2%, I guess we'll call it cost recovery. Is that typical for a municipality our size, or should we be looking for more cost recovery?
Through the mayor to Councillor Net-Tellenbos, I haven't done comparisons to other municipalities, but that is something that we can do. But typically, transit doesn't have the highest cost recovery.
Sorry, I didn't know you could.
Thank you, appreciate that. I wouldn't argue that, but I know the numbers fluctuate in between the 10 to 50%. I know it's not something we're looking for profit on, but I would just be curious to see where we're at, so potentially a future inquiry. Thank you.
We can add that to our list of the motion. Thank you. Councillor Van Newkirk and then Councillor Penrod.
Yeah, this will be the last one for me. I just wanted to pull on that thread that Councillor Murray was talking about on scheduling, because in the past, Council has in fact heard that there are big struggles at the Millwoods Rec Centre if there were to be wholesale changes in schedule. As in, if we were out by 20 minutes or half an hour, it would really change that landing spot and landing time at Millwoods, which could be upwards of 3 years to sort out. Can you just elaborate a little bit more on that? Because, a change of a couple minutes here and there is different than if we were to, add 20 to 30 minutes to every loop going into Millwoods.
Through the mayor to Councillor Van Newkirk, we may have, if we reduce our service and we get rid of some of those hours in between, it may be harder to recover those, getting those back. But I see the hours that we keep, we probably will have a similar schedule during those hours. So I don't see us foreseeing any issues during those times. But yes, you're right. Like if we pull out from some of those hours and they get filled, for us to get back into that may be more challenging.
That's right, and to give that up. And then conversely, if we were to add a whole bunch more, I believe the struggle is as real. Can you comment on that?
Through Through the mayor to Councillor Van Newkirk. Yes, it would be hard to get that time slot in to increase. But again, we'd work with ETS on that. If we gave them a large enough heads up, then they'd work with us on that for sure.
100%. Not unsolvable, but I just didn't want to leave the public feeling that it was okay to just make whatever change, right? Like little, inconsequential. Big, maybe not so much.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Penrod, you're up.
Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate the report, Mr. Orlovsky. I'm not sure who to aim my question at. I don't see a representative from Economic Development here tonight, so maybe one of the folks from the CAO's office could field it. In the report, and what we've often heard and understood from these transit conversations, aside from the valid points my colleagues have raised, is the difference it makes to our local businesses and also to our ability to attract new business investment in our community. I'm just wondering if there's a mechanism that we have for tracking those kind of requests. As Councillor Van Newkirk said earlier, the conversation never ends. We're always having these conversations at regional events and around the community with residents. I've seen a real uptick in local businesses asking for consistent transit so that they can, the thing lately we've been hearing is so that they can get employees to town on a good schedule, that they're able to avail themselves of transit. But just wondering if we're tracking that metric at all, and if there's any comment that you can make on the larger economic attraction piece.
Ms. O'Neill?
Thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Penrod, I don't have the statistics at my at my fingertips. However, you're absolutely correct. It is something that we hear from businesses very often about getting workers in and out of the city. In terms of the larger institutional investors, when they put in requests for information to the city, it is one of the first questions whether we have a fully functioning transit system in the city.
Thank you for that. So hopefully those will all be parts of conversations as we debate things down the road. I guess just by way of a final comment, I think it's important to look at cost recovery on these things, but we don't really look at cost recovery on our roads. And transit is a particular investment in our transportation system. And so this is where we get to a transportation master plan. And transit is certainly in our current transportation master plan contemplated and even relied upon to a degree. And we're well behind the investments that master plan would have us make. That's the trouble of living in Beaumont. It's our growth is our own worst enemy sometimes. We can't do everything we need to do or that we want to do. So look forward to having these conversations on an ongoing basis. I just wanted to test the alarm on that to see, make sure it was working. So
It works.
thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks for that. Awesome. All right. So I think we're done here in terms of questions. Councillor Murray.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I move that the June 23rd, 2026 report, Transit Services Report 2026, be received as information.
Any discussion? We'll vote. And that carried unanimously. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Oleski. We will now go to 6.6, Speed Limit Authority Report. Ms. Dargy, I believe you're up. And number 10. Okay, perfect.
Good evening, Council and members of the public. I'm Joanne Dargy, the Director of Legal and Legislative Services. I'm here to present tonight a report in response to Council's motion regarding speed limit authorities and potential bylaw amendments. I'll start with the legislative authority that governs speed limits. So the Traffic Safety Act prescribes speed limits for different types of areas. If a municipality wants to prescribe a higher or lower maximum than that set out in the Traffic Safety Act, then council may do so by bylaw. Council may also lower a speed limit by causing signs to be erected, and where a road is under construction or repair or is in a state of disrepair, A maximum speed limit may be established by erecting signage as well. I will provide a little synopsis of our bylaw history. So our bylaws, our traffic bylaws actually go back to 1973. Between 1973 to 1982, council established speed limits and prescribed the locations of traffic control devices, specifically yield and stop signs too. After 1982, maximum speed limits were set by council unless otherwise posted by a traffic control device. The bylaws have also authorized the CAO to determine the placement of traffic control devices, and the placement of such devices was deemed to have been made pursuant to the bylaw. In practical terms, what this meant was that the CAO was permitted to establish speed limits by erecting traffic control devices. For example, when the city first acquired control of 50th Street north of Township 510, the speed limit was established by erecting a signage and establishing the speed limit along that roadway, as there was no evidence that council prescribed a speed limit by bylaw. The current traffic safety bylaw, first approved in 2023, codifies what had actually been happening in practice. It provides that council establishes a default speed limit, playground zone speed limits, and the maximum speed limit in alleys. It provides the CAO, in relation to speed limits, with the authority to establish vehicle speed limits on roadways and cause traffic control devices to be erected indicating those speed limits, designating where traffic control devices, either permitted or temporary, are to be erected. Administration reviewed a few key considerations as well. For any new roadways constructed in Beaumont, the default speed limit established in the bylaw automatically applies unless an alternative speed limit is established. This means new development can generally proceed without requiring council approval of speed limits on every new road. The default speed limit that council has set by bylaw is 40 kilometers per hour. Speed limit decisions are typically based on technical information such as traffic impact assessments, engineering studies, roadway design, safety considerations, and anticipated traffic volumes. Regardless of who has authority to establish the speed limit, decisions would continue to be informed by professional recommendations and technical analysis to support those decisions. Council also requested information regarding liability implications. The courts have generally distinguished between core policy decisions made by council and operational decisions made by administration. Council decisions that involve balancing competing public interests, such as financial, social, political, or decisions. The courts don't generally second-guess council's core policy decisions. That protection is not absolute, however. The courts have also made it clear that not every council decision is automatically considered a protected policy decision, and the existence of policy protection does not prevent legal claims from being brought. Again, decisions should still be supported by appropriate information, technical analysis, and consideration of known safety risks. While there may be some legal advantages associated with council making policy decisions, administration would not recommend selecting an option based solely on liability considerations. We also conducted a jurisdictional scan. We looked at 11 regional and comparable municipalities. We started with some local regional urban centers and then broadened that out and looked at other municipalities that were of similar size, growth patterns, and road networks. Red Deer and Spruce Grove follow a similar model to Beaumont. There is a misprint on the slide where it says 3 municipalities. The 3 municipalities does include Beaumont. So this is whereby council sets a default speed limit, but administration has the authority to adjust higher or lower through the placement of signage. All other municipalities follow a similar model where council establishes maximum speed limits, and administration has the authority to restrict or lower speed limits by installing traffic control devices. There are some differences as to whether that's for a permanent speed change or a temporary speed change used for emergencies or construction road repairs, but they're all generally the same authority. So we've provided a few options for council to consider. Option 1 would be to retain the current CAO delegation, so that would keep the bylaw status quo. Council would has set the default speed limits. The CAO is authorized to set alternate speed limits by erecting signage. This does provide administrative flexibility. And as noted when we were talking about liability decisions, the administrative decisions would be evaluated on reasonable care. They do not invoke the same policy immunity protection that would be available to a council decision. Option 2 would provide that council sets default speed limits, but any speed limit increases require council approval. The CAO would be authorized to set lower maximum speed limits by erecting signage, and that would be in accordance with the Traffic Safety Act. This does increases council oversight and possibly provides the policy liability protection. There is some operational flexibility here still, as the CAO would still be authorized to lower maximum speed limits. Any increases would require administration to return with a bylaw amendment. This option does align more closely with most of the comparable municipalities that we looked at. And then option 3 would be for council to set default speed limits. So all permanent speed limit changes require council approval. So that would be whether there's an increase in the default speed limit or an increase or a decrease. The CAO would be authorized to lower the maximum speed limit in certain circumstances by erecting signage. So those certain circumstances would be during construction or road repair, or if a road is in a state of disrepair, or for emergencies. Again, this does increase council's oversight and may invoke that policy liability protection. And this retains flexibility for temporary operational requirements. So in summary, sorry, I didn't change the slide for you. The selection of whichever option depends on the degree of oversight that council wishes to exercise. And regardless of the option selected, again, speed limit decisions should continue to be informed by technical analysis, roadway design standards, professional engineering advice, and analysis of safety concerns. Should council wish to change this, change any speed limit authority, administration does recommend proceeding with option 2. The report does suggest that a speed bylaw is recommended, but should council wish to make changes, we would reevaluate whether an actual bylaw amendment or a new bylaw would be the appropriate method to implement council's direction. As stated previously, we do not recommend selecting an option based solely on the liability considerations, but option 2 also aligns more closely with comparable municipal practices and retains the operational flexibility required for the necessary reduction in speed adjustments. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Councillor Penrod, did you have a question as well? Yeah.
Yes, Mayor. Thank you. And thanks for the report. As the Mayor said, this is a report I've been looking forward to with much interest, and I know there's folks in the community following it too. I was impressed with the depth and breadth of the report that's been prepared by administration. I'm appreciative of that. I don't think the notice or the motion that asked for this report specifically required or requested the jurisdictional scan, but I just noted it was very thorough and it's actually brought more to bear on the conversation in front of us. So great work, and just wanted to commend everyone involved. On page 48 of 79 on our agenda package tonight, I think there's a sentence that really sort of sums up the report in my mind. Council decisions that involve balancing competing public interests and policy considerations may. So the first part is why we're here. I think there's been some decisions taken in the community that have led the public to wonder about who makes decisions on speed limits and why, and we've had some back and forth, and there hasn't been satisfaction in the broader community. I think that there's, or at least not enough visibility to the actual data that's the decisions have been made based on, for folks to feel like they understand, and we can think of the roadways under question here. And then the may piece, I think, just highlights that the liability aspect that I think the report does such a good job of summarizing. I was surprised to learn, actually, to this bylaw, we might actually have less liability as a community because of the way the courts treat when councils take seriously their role as involving or taking the role in balancing those public interests in. Of option 2 and option 3, the differences seem quite subtle to me. I just wonder if, in fairly plain language, you could summarize the difference between option 2 and option 3, or the differences. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Penrod, through the mayor to you. So the primary difference between option 2 and option 3 is that option 2 allows the CAO to permanently lower the maximum speed limit, whereas option 3 only provides a temporary reduction in times of road construction or emergencies, or when the road is in disrepair. So that's the subtle difference there.
Thank you. You're out of time. So we'll come back to you, okay? Thank you. Good question, though. That was my question as well. I appreciate it. Councillor Cole-Smith.
Thank you. I'll be quick with the clock running. So Councillor Penrod spoke about the desire out there for greater visibility and to the rationale behind decisions around speed limits. And options 2 and option 3, I think, list the fact that a change would be required, a bylaw would be required to make a change as a con, but I think that kind of puts it out more in the open. So from that sense, I think that's actually a pro. My question about liability, though, option 2 just strikes me as kind of like the worst of the bunch, in that you have half of the decision being made on one side and the other half being made on the other, as far as who can increase it and who can lower it. And now you have 2 independent entities making the decision. So do you see any conflict there, as far as like liability? Somebody could have lowered the limit but chose not to, and it seems like it feels like it puts the CAO in an awkward position. I'd like your thoughts.
Thank you, Councillor Cole-Smith, through the mayor to you. So if I understand your concern correctly, is that you've got council setting a speed limit, and then you've got the CAO or administration setting a lower maximum speed limit on perhaps a section of road or on another road than what is stated in the bylaw. Any decision that's made would be made based on a traffic impact assessment or through our transportation master plan or some other professional recommendation. So in terms of liability, if council's setting a maximum speed limit and there's a reason that a professional reason that the speed limit needs to be lowered, council has set that maximum speed limit. They have, and there may be that policy liability protection invoked for council. With administration's decisions, that comes down to negligence. So again, as long as we're following the technical reports, we should have a good defense against any kind of negligence. So that's the difference between administration decision and a council decision. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so, and I
Okay.
think I'm still at the same place where there's a bylaw required to set the speed limit higher, and then through the same reports, that everybody would be looking at to make those decisions, without a bylaw, the limit could be dropped. So
Yes, I mean, there would be, the reason for setting a lower maximum speed limit would be that there would be have been a change that impacted that. So there might be growth in the community, some new development, something like that, that would spark a different, a lowering of that maximum speed limit. This, again, option 2 is very common in the area, and how many of the communities that we looked at, how they address their traffic safety bylaw.
okay, I'm good, thank you.
You good? Thank you. Councillor Van Newkirk, you're up next.
Yeah, thank you. Comment and then a question and then a comment. I wonder if we'd be here tonight if the speed limit change on 50th hadn't been changed to 50 kilometers an hour. Comment. My concern coming into this conversation is that speed limits in the community should not be political in nature. another comment. However, what the report does show is that Beaumont is an outlier right now by not having a bylaw, so here we are. So my question, if you could go to the summary slide, please. There's a second bullet on the summary slide, and my question on that is, how would Beaumont ensure that occurs? If administration could comment on that. So no matter
On the
what-
second bullet, that
Yeah.
the speed limit decisions should
Yeah,
continue?
how will we ensure that?
So if the recommendations when making any decisions, so that is our practice, we have engineers on staff and they have engineering code of practice that they have to follow. Should council wish to have authority in setting all the speed limits, recommendations from technical reports would be brought to council to make those decisions.
That's great. So final comment is, if this database decision using background information like a traffic impact assessment or other mechanism that's already been made was in place, having a bylaw wouldn't have changed the outcome of 50th Street. So that's my comment. Those are the facts. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Natellenbus, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple questions. You had a few comments there. I agree with, I think, all of them, but one specifically is if there was one of these streets, 50th being that wasn't adjusted to the lower limit, would we be here? Probably not. So I guess first question is, with the existing process, what is the formal appeal process should the majority of the community or council not agree with a prescribed speed limit?
Through the mayor to Councillor Natellenbus. So right now, all the decisions have been made on technical reports. I'm not sure that there is a formal appeal process when a technical decision is made based on an engineering standard. I'm not sure if Deputy CAO O'Neill has anything to add? Yeah.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And did I hear correctly, and maybe I heard incorrectly, because I know a lot of these TIAs are third party, but did you say that we have an internal resource that's able to do these assessments as well?
So to correct, we have engineers on staff who have engineering standards. They would follow the engineering recommendation that is presented to them. So in their best practice, they wouldn't go against an engineering recommendation.
Perfect, so,
Oh, we would get another assessment. Yes. Thank you for that. If we don't, if for some reason we find that a third-party recommendation seems inadequate, we have gotten a second recommendation. Yeah.
perfect. And if I remember correctly, and please correct my numbers if they are incorrect, but an inquiry was made, I believe by myself, as to what the cost would be to get a secondary opinion on 50th Street. And I believe it was around the $25,000 mark. Is that number still true and accurate? And we would go ahead and get a second opinion if we weren't confident?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. And just last question. When we say that council or CAO may have authority over specific roads, are we talking as a whole, so going arterial versus collector versus local versus alley, or are we talking specific roads that we can pick and choose and assign limits to?
So if I understand what you're asking correctly, whoever's setting the speed limit, so if council is setting the speed limit, you would set the speed limit on a specific road. You can set a speed limit on a specific section of a road. So for instance, 50th Street has a number of different speed limits. If council wished to put that within the bylaw, it would state the different sections of 50th Street what those different speed limits were. Does that answer the question?
I think, so you could go as far as they're wild in Dansborough, it's 40, slower in Bow Meadows, it's 30. Like it could be that specific, or it's focused on residential?
It could be that specific, but I don't think that would be the recommendation. Okay, yeah.
Great questions. All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, Councillor Penrod, did you want to speak to this? Or do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I think I'd be prepared, if everyone's had a chance to ask their questions, I'd be prepared to make a motion, Mayor. And so I'll ask for some help from LLS, but I would just be looking to move the recommended motion, swapping out option 3 for option 2.
Thank you. Sorry. You would like option 3, not option 2? As
Correct.
recommended.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so I would move that a bylaw establishing the speed limit authorities as outlined in option 3 of the June 23rd, 2026 council report be prepared by the end of Q4 2026.
Councillor Penrod, would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor.
And-
Well, previously, I already spoke to some of the big issues here, and so I'll just say, finally, the differences between option 3 and option 2 are limited. I think the points that have been raised, kind of pro and con, are virtually the same for either of those options. In my reflection, the conversations in the community that have brought this conversation to where we're at today have been centered more around speed limits that have been lowered than speed limits that have been risen. And option 3 seems to address that more directly to me, as far as I understand it so far. So I would just say that what we will eventually debate here and decide tonight is asking for a further report for a bylaw to be drafted and brought back that will be then further debated. So I would just ask that for your support to allow this conversation to continue across the community. I think had we been in a place where when that decision to lower the speed limit on 50th Street, and I take the point, like that's the bee in people's bonnet, the case point that people are reflecting on, but it's brought me to reflect more on the process. So had we been in a point where when we asked some of the questions, we had been able to see those traffic impact assessments and have a bit more visibility, and through council, the community could have had more visibility into some of the rationale put in, I think we might not have had to be here tonight. But as a result, we're here, and so I just hope you'll vote to allow the conversation to continue. Thank you.
Thank you. There you go. All right, no further discussion. We will go into a vote. Oh, I'm sorry. Point of order?
Yeah, just a point of order. So maybe no one has any debate or questions, but I've just moved the motion and spoken to the motion. If folks want to debate or ask questions, they certainly could. But if everybody's ready to vote, I'm happy to vote too. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, thank you. Just wondering if Councillor Penrod could remind us what problem we're trying to solve here.
I think ultimately the problem we're trying to solve is when community members say, why 50 and not 60, that we can actually give them a satisfactory answer. And so far, I haven't received a report or any information from administration that allows me to do that to the extent that I'd like to be able to do that. And so this is being brought forward by members in the community through me, one of their elected officials, and I'd like to see it through. So just in sum, I think the community is looking for more transparency and accountability. Residents in St. Vital or Dansereau or Bow Ridge or Bow Meadow don't have any direct accountability linked to the CAO, who's currently delegated to make those decisions. And they'd like to have somebody making the decisions that's more directly accountable to them. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Natelambas.
Perfect. I guess I'd imagine this stems around 50th Street heading north out of the city. That being said, whether we're with option 1 or with option 3, option 1 being maintaining our existing structure and process, what would change in terms of I guess, being more transparent, because the conversation that was had is the TIA was completed that determined the speed limit. It's going to be the exact same process that we would follow as councillors, and we would base our decision off that professional opinion. So I guess what's the difference between us making the decision and the CAO and team making the decision based off that TIA?
Thank you. Councillor Penrod, just maybe keep it brief, that way we can get to all the other
Sure,
questions as
I'll do
well.
my best. So I had highlighted in my opening remarks that word may, and that may really links back to liability and the concern that the report makes really clear that these decisions, as several of you have made the point, really need to be made based on the best engineering recommendations that we can get for what these roads can handle, right? But if you'll recall, when that decision was made to lower that speed limit, it was an email on a Friday that we got that the decision's been made and here we go. And so there was no ability for council to review that material and to do the work that is also included in this report of balancing the public good and the need for safety that's based on that hard data. So that's what would change.
So if I hear you correct, it was more a communication issue than it was anything else, because the decision would likely be the same based on the professional engineering opinion?
No, I think this change would allow council to do what the law allows council to do, and to, as I highlighted earlier, I'll just go back to my notes for a second, Mayor, to do that role of balancing competing public interests and policy considerations, which is what we do everywhere in budget and everywhere there's technical data and engineering recommendations. And sometimes we take them wholeheartedly and sometimes we tweak them because we're not fully satisfied. And sometimes we ask for a second opinion, and that's based on our best understanding, being fully accountable to the community of what's in the best interest of the wider community.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Just a final comment. Although I don't agree with the speed limit that is on 50th Street, I now take 34th, and I've made that very clear. I am not an engineer, and I don't determine these speeds. My decision would have been based off of the same decision that was provided to administration, which comes from a professional engineer. So that being said, I know the opportunity did exist through my other motion or request for information as to what the process would be to challenge the proposed limit that came from that engineer, and we were provided with a $25,000 cost, and we had the opportunity to do that. So that being said, I won't support this motion because I don't think that this responsibility should fall on council, given that all the appropriate steps are being taken and we're consulting with the appropriate engineers to determine these rates of speed. But again, know that the option exists for us to challenge that should that be a concern down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Cole-Smith.
Yeah, thank you. I think a lot of what I was going to say has been said. But for me, like the thing here is really getting that conversation out in the open. It's not about making decisions on speed limit based on politics. And maybe it is the same decision that we come to, but that conversation's had in the open, where in the past the decision was made and everybody's wondering why and questions are floating around out there. This puts it out in the open, and it's out there, it's transparent. That was one of the things, I know that's a buzzword, but it's one of the things that everybody talked about during the campaign. The fact that option 2 is so popular out there in other jurisdictions tells me that there's some of that thought process out there. But for me, option 2 is the worst of all options, in that it splits the decision in two. So it's either option 1 or option 3. And in the spirit of having those conversations out in the open, I'm going to go with option 3.
Thank you. Councillor Murray, you're next.
Thank you, Mayor. This whole, I can understand why the report was generated and why we asked for it, or why, specifically you had brought it forth, Councillor Penrod. I'm just wondering if, I hesitate on it just because I'm wondering what there might be a cost to creating a bylaw where this job was already done. And I think that administration made the right decision. I don't have issue with the speed limit in that specific area on 50th Street. That's my personal opinion, but I do wonder if this is going to take away from some of the other work that we do as council, if we now have to go in and look at bylaws for speed limits and traffic reports a little more frequently. So anyways, I just wanted to put that out there that, yeah, I think the job was already done correctly, so I don't think this is about trying to correct a decision. And I'm just not sure that, yeah, I think it just takes some focus away from us as a council on other more pressing matters.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, thank you. For me, I want to support bringing some authority back to council. I think the regional summary shows that, and I think that's the right direction. But administration, correct me if I'm wrong, but option 3 means that every permanent speed limit decision on every new road in a growing city comes back as a bylaw. Is that correct?
Ms. Dargy.
Through to Councillor Van Newkirk. So the way the bylaw would work is if you had a default speed limit, as you do now, as 40 kilometers per hour, any new road that comes on would be established at 40 kilometers per hour. If it was determined that a maximum speed limit for a different roadway or for a roadway should be established, that would then have to come back to council to establish that. Any increase in that speed limit or decrease, permanent decrease. Temporary decreases would allow operational flexibility for times of construction. So the CAO would still have that authority to decrease the speed limit during times of construction. Does that make sense?
Kind of. What I'm trying to get at is what is the right balance between operational burden and council burden to agendas? Our agendas are already full enough without introducing another layer here. Maybe could you just take another stab at trying to help me understand that?
Sure. So anytime a new neighborhood is opened up, the streets are opened up, that would not require a bylaw amendment. Those streets would automatically be established at 40 kilometers per hour. If there was a new playground zone, the CAO would have the authority to establish playground zones by erecting signs. It's only if the city acquired some new road that needed to establish a new speed limit that would be either higher or lower than 40 kilometers per hour.
Okay. Follow-up question to that then would be option 2 compared, and this has already been answered, but I'm trying to get somewhere with this. So option 2 would just delegate that authority to the CAO.
Option 2 would delegate the decrease in speed limit, a permanent decrease in the speed limit. If a road was to have a higher speed limit than 40 kilometers per hour, that would have to come to council.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, for me, I still think that option 2 gives council the oversight we're looking for without creating potential process bottlenecks as Beaumont grows. Like, I think we are solving the right problem if the problem was the community had concern. But to echo what Councillor Natellenboss says, all of the evidence would have brought us to the same place anyways. So what I'm trying to decide is what is the right tool, and the decision in front of us is option 2 the tool or option 3, and I'm going to have to decide before I hit yes or no here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hyde.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Mayor, for remembering my name. No, I'm looking at these things too, and I understand the spirit of what is in front of us here, and I understand the concern from the community saying, you know, why did you make this road this much and this road this much? And I mean, I see it every day down in Saunterville. You know, a speed limit of 50 going through the middle of Saunterville to me is excessive, but that's just me and what I'm looking at going through there. However, how do we get there? Well, I think option 2 gives us that mechanism to be able to do it, but doesn't put us in the middle of doing a whole bunch of work as a council as well. So I would ask my councillor, fellow Councillor Penrod to consider going to option 2 as opposed to option 3, just because of the burden of coming back to council with so many different bylaws.
Councillor Penrod?
Yeah, would it be in line, Mayor, if I ask, could we hear your thoughts on the matter before I make a decision, if that's a friendly amendment or not?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I can hear the wrestling in the room with some of the councillors between 2 and 3, and I understand, for example, you know, on 50th, now we have lights, so it changes the dynamics of that whole throughway, which can regulate some of the speed just by the fact that there are lights. So, you know, if the CAO has the authority to just say, okay, we're going to increase it because we find that the lights are regulating speed, people are slowing down anyway because they got to come to a light, we're going to put it up, then he has that authority to do that without having to come to council. So it's pros and cons. I agree. We don't want to put too much burden on council, but we do need to have transparency. I believe that we do need a change, and that change has to be somewhere in there where the community knows that we have a reason why there's a speed limit as it is.
Yeah, so Mayor, I'm listening carefully to my colleagues, and my intention with proposing 3, you know, sometimes if you're doing something that's an outlier, you're a genius, and sometimes you're crazy. I don't want us to be the crazy municipality. I'm hearing that we might have more support for 2. In my mind, the worst case scenario would be that we end up right back where we currently are, and then now we're aware of an issue in our process, but we haven't done anything about it, and that comes back on us. So I would entertain Councillor Hyde's suggestion that that be a friendly amendment, that we go back to option 2 in the motion.
All right, so we'll begin in anyway, right? So, okay, begin in anyway, right? So, okay. All right, any other questions or discussion around that? All right, we will go to a vote. Did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, just really briefly, just want to make it crystal clear that this is one step in the process. Now, if this motion is successful, administration would go back and do some further work that we could then review and debate some more. On top of that, I just want to make it clear for the community that we're not making a decision of whether we're going to revisit the speed limit on 50th Street North tonight. That's a separate issue related, but not being decided here or even when this comes forward at the end of Q4. That would require a different set of work by council. And so just wanted to make that clear, and hope I can earn your support on this motion tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Penrod. Okay, we will go to a vote. So would you like to read it out again, just because it's changed?
Sure thing. I move that a bylaw establishing the speed limit authorities as outlined in option 2 of the June 23rd, 2026 council report be prepared by the end of Q4 2026.
Awesome. Stop this before we get out, and we'll vote. And that carried 6-1 with oppose, I think it was in Natelmbas? Yeah, Councillor Natelmbas. Oh, did I get that right? Wrong on the screen up here, yeah. Councillor Natelmbas. My screens all went black, so can't see them. Thank you, councillors, for that debate. Sorry about timer. So we will be back here at 7:35. All right, we will resume. Let me know we're already live. We're good? Okay, we are going to resume. Thank you for patience, those who are watching online. We are now going to pick up where we left off and go to 6.7, motion following notice for Councillor Penrod leave.
Thank you, Mayor. Do you want me to start by reading the motion? Thank you.
Yes, please.
I move funding program, including historical funding and utilization, available 2027 grant funding, and recommendations on funding levels, and a process for regularly reviewing and adjusting the funding envelope to ensure long-term sustainability of the program. So just,
Speak to it first.
and I have a goal to not take my whole 2 minutes here. So I'll just start at a high level. I think I've seen this program evolve, and I think it's really come a long ways in a few short years. I think it's a really cost-effective way across our community to supercharge the work of our great community volunteer organizations across the city. We're in this situation in Beaumont where we need more of everything yesterday, and we can't afford to do all of the things that we need to do and want to do. We know those needs are like, we're so focused on those in our strategic plan. We have to take care of the core things first, but it's actually the wants sometimes that make our community the livable, awesome place that it is. And so just knowing that we have that tension, I think I want to make sure that this program remains adequately funded so that we can use those limited dollars to get them in the hands of volunteers who are doing great work, multiplying the results of those few dollars. The actual motion itself is really intended to just to continue to improve our process around budget specific to this program and to make it more rational, to take some more of the politics out of it and to bring a service level approach that we're getting traction with in some of our other, across some of our other service centers in the community. And I think we're just seeing good feedback from across the community that seems to be a good way to go. We saw great progress on that front at Budget 2026 on community safety. And so that's the intention here, is just to continue to refine this process. Happy to take your questions and hope I can earn your support.
Thank you, Councillor Penrod. A question I do have in terms of, I don't see anything here asking for a report, or part of the report as what are the asks year over year? Like, for example, the number of applicants and the amounts. Are we seeing an increase of that year over year? And I'm not sure if that's necessary information that you think would be included, should be included in that?
Yeah, I would think, Mayor, that's certainly vital, important information to be gathered for us to consider at budget time. From my perspective, that is being collected, and we have been presented with it in the past, but certainly not opposed to including that specifically here if that would help you to support the motion.
Okay, whether or not it needs to be added in, or is that already embedded in the understanding that that would
Yeah,
include
my
that?
understanding, and maybe Edmund could just speak to that, my understanding is that data reporting of the amount of organizations as one metric, and then the amount of dollars asked for as another metric, are those already being captured in a year-over-year way and presented year-over-year at budget time?
Ms. O'Neill.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Councillor Penrod, yes, we can absolutely include that, and it would form the basis for the recommendation for service levels and all that, so it would be included in the report. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Hyde?
Yeah, I have a very similar question to that. Looking at this as any type of redundancy, I understand the importance of this grant funding program. Totally have seen many community groups take advantage of this grant funding program, and I think it's essential. But at the same time, isn't this something that's coming forward at budgetary time anyways, when the ask is for how much we wanted at budget time? I'm trying to get clarity on this as to see when it's presented at budget, how much information we would get, or if we really need to have this in place as well. Like, wouldn't we get this information anyways, is what I'm saying.
So that'd be a question to admin.
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill?
Thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Hyde, we would likely include some baseline information and a recommendation for funding, but not a process for regular reviewing, recommendations on service levels. That would be additional information that could help council in their decision-making.
So just a follow-up question for that. Do we have the capacity in order to give this information at budget time then? Or is it something that we're looking at adding capacity to?
We would be able to complete this motion by the end of October, so you would have it in time for budget.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay. Would you like to speak to it as a final?
Since I failed in my earlier goal, I will yield my time.
Well done, wow. All right, we'll go to a vote. I'll move on to bylaws and bylaw 7.1. I think that's Ms. Raymond, is that correct? You're doing the presentation today?
All right. Thank you. So good evening, Mayor, Council, members of the public. My name is Kendra Raymond, Director of Planning and Development. I'm pleased to present for first reading Bylaw 1107-26, which is intended to redistrict 12 hectares of land from agricultural holdings to conventional neighborhood and commercial districts as set out in Attachment 1. This redistricting will enable residential housing to be built east of the canal and commercial and retail development to proceed, and rationale for support are detailed in the report and Attachment 2. Should Council give first reading, the next steps will be to hold a public hearing on the proposed amendment before giving second and third reading. As mentioned in the report, the redistricting is compliant with the MDP and ASP, and the developer's proposed land uses comply with the intent of the proposed districts. Accordingly, administration recommends that Council give first reading, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Raymond. We will open it up to any questions here. Maybe we'll put the motion up first. Okay, I will go ahead, Councillor Niton-Moss.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I guess, Ms. Raymond, just a quick question.
Sorry, before we do that, we're gonna do the motion first, and then we can do the question.
Then I will go ahead with that. Move that bylaw 1107-26, Beauval Park Land Use Bylaw, amending bylaw, be given the first reading.
Okay, go ahead.
Thanks. Just questions for administration, more specifically, Ms. Raymond. Given that this potential change will fall in the backyard of Lakewood Close, do we have any idea what that would look like for residents backing onto this area?
Let me just pull up some further maps here. If we could, just wondering what the best photo would be. Would it be possible to pull up Attachment 3, please? So the land uses that are on the west portion of the canal, sorry, the east portion, this is my directionally challenged problems. The east portion is where the residential side would be. The commercial side would be west of the canal there. I believe the crescent or the cul-de-sac that you are speaking to is directly north. No, can you please stay there? Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Is just north of that area that is in the more eastern portion. Is that correct? That developed cul-de-sac?
I guess they both slightly tie into, yeah. So Lakeland Point is also back in the commercial, but.
Correct. So there is some green space that is allocated within the Beaumont Lakes Area Structure Plan that is directly adjacent to the south portion of that cul-de-sac. And then, which you can see, I believe that is on, it's on the Area Structure Plan one. Not the air photo, but the other one that overlays the land uses. Then there's a road, and then we would have the houses that would be south of that road. So we're going to have a bit of green space, we'll have a road, and then we'll have the houses that would be south of that, with the retail over further closer to the existing commercial area. You can see the land uses more clearly in terms of attachment. Yeah, it is within the planning and development report, which is an attachment to, and yeah.
Perfect, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm looking at right now.
One, okay.
So I guess in terms of specific, obviously, we're not at that planning phase. I mean, should this go through, as I've mentioned and discussed previously, is always the concern about what's going to be in my backyard. Knowing that obviously it's eventually going to change. I mean, it's land that's going to be developed at some point. I just hope that the process, should it go through, be thoughtful and mindful of existing structures, would be my comment there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Talambas. Councillor Cole-Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Just in the same vein, and I think it's in the report, I just want to double check. It says that the residential density proposed for the residential area on the east side is 20 units per net residential hectare. I think that's roughly what it is just to the north, but do we know that offhand?
Offhand, I don't have that information, but we can make sure that we are providing that prior to second reading there.
Okay. Just one more. I think I know the answer to this one too, but I'll ask it. Just find my notes. I think it was page 6 of attachment 2. Just kind of conflicts with what's on the map there, and I think it's just wording. It says the areas of parcel D, which are to border the existing development to the north, are designated as either park or stormwater management facility. So, but there's a road there too, right?
There is a road there too,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole-Smith. Just picking up with that, I don't know if it's just me when I was reading this, it seemed to be that the area parcel D seemed to be indicated that will be coming later at a different application, but at the same time, it is included in this in some way, like on here, redistricting parcel A, D, the same kind of a redistricting, right, happening, parcel D, across the street, across 625?
I think that is just where the shading ended up being, and it is entirely north of 625.
It is north of
Yeah,
625?
it might be better shown on a different one that's not overlain on the aerial imagery, because the text and whatnot, and then I can see that it's hard to see the dashed line as it relates to the red and everything else that's all kind of going on there. But it is entirely within that. It's shown more clearly on Schedule A of the, yeah, right there. So you can see that it is entirely within the Beauval area, and it is north of 625.
Okay, well, thanks for clarifying that, because, yeah, that was confusing to me, because you have two different diagrams with showing
Thank you for
the
that
area
feedback.
D, and this one is south of 625. Okay, I'll go over to Councillor Hyde. Councillor Hyde.
Oh, yes, sorry. Got my name this time. Good. So,
I actually have to ask you to talk?
very good. So through the mayor, I'm taking a look at this, and I just want to make sure, and, you know, I don't see it here, I'm sure it's in the bylaw somewhere, that this has to be connected by pathways within this, both these districts as well. Pathways have to be connected to the existing pathways?
Yes, they would be needing to respect any of the trail and transportation connectivity as shown in the outline plan, area structure plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We're going over to Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, thank you, and I'll pull on that thread just a little bit to ensure that on the south side of this, the trail all the way around Beaumont is included here.
That is correct. The redistricting area allows for the dedication of a municipal reserve parcel to allow for the extension of the perimeter trail.
Perfect, yeah, we definitely don't want to miss that. I'm just trying to wrap my head around, if you wouldn't mind going back up to the one you were just on, with the designation, the CN on one side and the C on the other. Yeah, that'll work. So just trying to wrap my head around this, the transition. So basically, on the west side, the C, west of the canal, kind of delivers on a mixed-use vision with residential as discretionary, and that, I believe the purpose of that is to transition from that commercial to residential, and with having the residential as discretionary there, that would preclude any big apartments from being built. Is that true?
Correct. The intention of administration is to uphold the 80-20 split that council desires to see for commercial and to maximize that. That's why we felt that the commercial district was the most appropriate district to be used here.
Yeah, thank you. And then to the east there, the CN part, so then that delivers on a more, like, how would I say it, low density residential vision with some character type thing. So to Councillor Natellenboss's point, it more matches what is in that spot. Is that true?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
In the CN part, the intent there would be to have more of a low density residential that would better match with the road network we see coming down there.
Correct. So we would have single-family housing, maybe some duplexes, that sort of thing. That's the intention for that, I believe.
Yeah, I think, okay, thank you. I needed to wrap my head around that out loud because we've heard loud and clear from the community what they don't like and not like to see, and what I want to say is that this submission has heard the community. So I think that's confirmed now. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Councillor Colesmith, back to you.
Thank you. Two easy ones, I think. The report mentions that the two existing accesses east of LeBlanc Canal onto the highway have to be removed. Looking at Google Maps, maybe they're not there anymore, but there appear to be two other accesses on the west side of the canal. Would those be staying?
Any accesses that would be directly going to 625 would need to be removed, and they would have access off of 30th Avenue.
Okay, and then that brings me to the second question. In the report, I've lost which page, but it mentions that a section of 30th Avenue, which is the exterior ring road, would be left incomplete. That's temporary and not like a permanent state, correct?
It is temporary in that there are no immediate plans for development. It's a non-participating landowner at this time, so unless the city chose to expropriate, we couldn't force the completion of the ring road through there. We don't own the land, and neither does this applicant.
Okay, but there's nothing proposed here that would prevent that from being built. It's landowner and, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. I might ask you to recap again what Anthony or what Councillor Colesmith had just asked you in terms, because I just did not compute whatsoever, but I had another question beyond that.
Sure. I can start with the ring road will not be completed because we don't own the land and neither does the applicant. So unless we acquire it or somehow own it, we can't force that to be developed at this time. There will be a small piece between the Azure neighborhood and this development that will not be finished.
Okay. So my question then is regarding the area north of that future ring road. And right now, it does show as a green space. Is there a chance that that could get changed from green park space or like a water, looks like there's going to be some ponds there? What would council see that come before us if there was a change to that?
If, through the mayor to Councillor Murray, if council were to, like if the application in front of us or a different one were to change that and to contemplate a different use of land, yes, that would come to council for a change because it would be different than what's on the land use concept. So it would require an amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for those questions. I have a question regarding the property. You may have already said this, I may have missed it, but the property that's to the west of the one that is being proposed for C. On this map, the attachment 3, it says it's zoned for mixed use. Is that correct?
The portion that is currently in there with the
pink
the AH to C is currently mixed use.
Yeah, to the west of that.
And then further to the west of that is commercial.
Okay, so am I looking at the wrong, this pink section right here?
That is one of the pieces we're talking about through this application right now. We're dealing with that pink area, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the pink area is the area that's going to commercial, and then the area that is, you see the green swath that's runs north-south, directly to the other side of that. That's also the land we're dealing with that's going to go residential.
Mixed use commercial.
So the mixed use part's going to go commercial, and then the other part's going to go residential.
Okay. So it's not agricultural land right now?
Just age.
Okay. All right, thank you. Understand my confusion?
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions, councillors? Okay. So we have a motion before us to pass the first reading of this, or? So we will go, Councillor Van Nieuwkerk. Nope, you're good? Okay, we will go to a vote. And that carried unanimously. We're done with this? Sorry. All right, we'll continue on to our CAO update.
Certainly, thank you very much. I've actually got a two-part update. I'm going to go through some of the regular operational
Thank you.
events that occurred over the last week, and then hand it to community and council with a more robust update on the EOC. So, first of all, up on that list, Seniors Week event was held on June 4th at the Community Center, welcoming 89 Beaumont older adults. I can say senior because I'm a senior, for an afternoon of social connection and entertainment. Then we have our Canada Day celebration on July 1st at Four Seasons. This is a free family event, very well attended. Lots of different things going on, food trucks. There will be a fireworks display at 11 p.m. and those will be launched from the Badass Fairgrounds. So the fairgrounds will be closed to the public for safety reasons, but people are encouraged to show up and, from one of the many designated viewing areas throughout Beaumont. For more information, have a look at our website. We'll take a second to remind our residents that private fireworks are not allowed in our city. You must be permitted and licensed, and that can only be done through the city. So if you are going to be shooting off fireworks, we will have municipal enforcement around for Canada Day. Finance, oh yeah, who put this one in here? Property taxes are due June 30th. Thank you very much, Ollie. Road closure, there's a triathlon scheduled for this Saturday. We're doing the best we can to make sure that that event can go, but it will require some road closures. And when I talk about do our best to make sure it can go is with the water restrictions that we have right now. Public Works, street sweeping and line painting. The street sweeping operations are now complete, so line painting will begin this week, weather permitting, obviously. We need dry weather to proceed. Weed control program or spraying scheduled to commence this week across various municipal locations, and of course, the weather is going to put a little damper on that, pardon the pun. Park amenities, infrastructure, tennis court renewal project is officially underway. So additionally, the installation of the remaining porta potties is moving forward. Planning and development, public service. Protective services. There's some numbers there on the enforcement that's taken place. Fairly impressive. 23 properties were visited for follow-up. These are the construction sites. Follow-up inspections and tickets and notices to remedied. On June 14th to 20th, 19 of those properties achieved compliance. 4 properties were issued stop orders. And on the week previous to that, 74 properties were visited, 23 tickets were issued. And as you can see in the bottom, there's an example of a compliant builder and a non-compliant builder. And that's all I had, and I will turn it over to our Director of Emergency Management. Thank you.
Go ahead, Chief.
Okay, good evening, council members, public. Jay Melvin, I'm in the role presenting tonight as your Director of Emergency Management. Obviously, just to give some concept, we've had significant rainfall since the weekend that has impacted the city's infrastructure. Our parks and trail closures, in response to the rapidly rising water levels and localized flooding in our stormwater management facilities, temporary trails were implemented in flooded areas. Staff deployed signage and physical barriers to warn open trail and trail users of flooded trails. This proactive effort was critical to ensure public safety and keep the community members out of potentially hazardous areas while the severe weather passed. So we appreciate the public on respecting those restrictions we had in place. Stormwater management facility status. The intense rainfall water levels to rise well above the standard high water levels in the stormwater management facilities, better known as our storm ponds. With some of these storm ponds reaching and temporarily exceeding that 1 in 100-year flood level. This extraordinary volume resulted in overland flows outside the designated stormwater management facilities, and in some cases encroaching on residential properties. The stormwater management facilities are designed to work in this fashion and for the most part performed as per their intended design. Currently, with the decrease in precipitation, water levels are slowly receding and should return to regular levels outside of any more weather events, and we'll discuss that later. Wastewater system upgrades. Our sustained heavy rainfall in the region caused significant surcharges throughout the wastewater network, pushing the city's main lines above capacity. While the Arrow Utilities regional pump station operated at 100%, it was unable to keep pace with extreme regional surge flows. The system surcharge led to the localized sewage backups, primarily affecting 20 homes in the Elan neighborhood, with isolated incidents in other locations throughout the city. To manage this incident, the Emergency Operations Center was formally stood up on Sunday upon the coordinated logistics. Immediate mitigation and load reduction strategies were deployed, including a localized Alberta emergency alert and mandatory non-essential water restrictions for residents. Part of these conversations, or I can't even say it. As part of these water-saving efforts, the Beaumont BSRC was temporarily closed to eliminate high-volume facility discharge. Municipal and utility personnel maintain 24-hour monitoring coverage of all critical infrastructure, including all active tactical response plans. They've been formally reviewed and approved by the Provincial Operations Centre, Alberta Health and Alberta Environment. Our roads. Our municipal roadways experienced minor localized flooding during the peak of the heavy rain event, such as overland flooding over the Township Road 510 east of 50th Street, just right by the Colonial Pond number 1. However, the drainage systems managed the high volume, and the pooling has since subsided from the roadways. Most importantly, all routes remain safe and passable, and no road closures were required at any point during the recent rain event. Beaumont issued a public alert through the Alberta Emergency Alert System, operated by the provincial government at 12:36 p.m. on Sunday, then renewed it Monday and Tuesday. Information was also shared with the public through multiple measures, including mobile electric signs in the city, social media, the website, digital signage in public facilities, and regular updates provided daily. 5 media interviews were conducted, and details from the city's news release and website updates were all included in all major Edmonton area media outlets. Service Experience Offices was activated Sunday afternoon to monitor and reply to public inquiries through the portal on the city's website. Engagement with the city's social media has been strong, while comments have been mixed. The overall sentiment is overwhelmingly positive. The mayor's video update posted Sunday even surpassed 215,000 views on Facebook, 15,436% above a typical post to this page. The video was shared more than 270 times with 1,050 reactions, including 1,011 likes, hearts, and cares. Facilities. Overall, city facilities held up well under the severe weather. Minor water infiltration was identified at City Hall, Fire Hall, CCBCC. However, these issues were quickly addressed. Facility teams responded promptly, and corrective actions included targeted waterproofing and localized roof repairs are underway or have been completed to secure the buildings. The BSRC was closed for operations Monday to reduce water and wastewater flows, and also Tuesday. And the city's potable water reservoirs or pump houses were not impacted, and the municipal drinking water supply remained entirely secure. Obviously, Council's been getting regular updates that the EOC has provided to the CEO, and I'm, if that's the report from EM, open if Council has any questions or clarifying comments on what was proposed.
Thank you so much, Chief Melvin. First of all, I want to say that, thank you for everyone who's been working tirelessly. The residents are safe and in need of any resources or help. The community has noticed that, and I've had several people say that they were amazed at how the Public Works Admin and Council had handled, especially communications and the ongoing updates to the situation. So I just want to commend everyone involved in that. Thank you for that. Any questions or comments, councillors?
Thank you, Mayor. I won't echo all the thanks because I know everyone has the same comment to make, but I do just want to ask quickly what the process is for the emergency alert system. I know sometimes people get a notification to their phones, some need to download an app. Like, what is the process for communication on the Government of Alberta side for that?
Through the Mayor to Councillor Tellenboss, the Alberta Emergency Alert is alerted through the app based on the severity of the conditions. People would have to sign up to the app to see what the alert would be.
Perfect. And are you able to just describe the difference then between the two, just so everyone knows, like when are we going to get a formal alert where your phone goes nuts versus having the app?
Through the Mayor to Councillor Tellenboss, the emergency alert was recently upgraded in the last few years for the province of Alberta. We do know that there's different mechanisms within the Provincial Operations Center that would determine if things come through your phone. We've seen Amber Alerts come a different way with that. Based on the severity and the level of this location or the kind of yellow warning, it comes through the app. If it was escalated higher, determining on if there's immediate risk, severe weather, immediate impact of tornadoes or things like that, it would be raised at a much higher level and get pushed out through the cellular network. But once again, you would see that, and then you would also see that trigger where you'd see it on your television where it would come across like what we're used to. So ideally, a lot of things now are triggered from a mobile standpoint when it comes to all of our updates. We did communicate from a Alberta Emergency Alert, and when we did talk to all our media outlets and anything we put on social media was all broadcasting that information.
Perfect, thank you. So then one more comment to administration. Is there any way we could get the word out that there's probably some benefit to downloading that app? Because I think a lot of people aren't familiar with it, and a lot of people didn't get the benefit of that notification. Thank you.
Good suggestion. Councillor Murray. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, I had a question in regards to what we are putting out. Obviously, we've got our social media, we've got our website, and these alerts. But what about people who aren't looking on their phones? As an example, I sent the message to my mom. She lives in St. Albert. She hadn't heard anything about it because she wasn't on the social media platforms. Is there some stuff going out to radio? I mean, obviously there would be some stuff on news, but I'm just wondering of other avenues.
Through the mayor to Councillor Murray, it is my understanding from our comms team that we're using all available channels that they have to them when we're putting this messaging out. The stuff was pushed to the media and through our social media. I do not believe we did anything from a newspaper's perspective just because of delays. But once again, the Alberta Emergency Alert for many communities, it is app to base and depending on what level, but it's a good point. We will make a recommendation to our comms team tomorrow when we stand up to include that in the messaging and some links that are there to help the public out. But it's good feedback from the public that we can make the quick adjustment on.
Yeah, thank you. One more question, or maybe it's more of a comment. There is some talk about potable water and if there was an effect on it, and it looks like, hopefully not, there's no more rain. But can you just tell us maybe why we're keeping these measures in place a little bit longer?
So just for context, it's very easy to go outside and drive around Beaumont and look around and it doesn't look like anything's wrong. The problem is everything is underground. We can only move so much wastewater outside the city that our downward utility companies can accept. And when they can't accept with what we're trying to give them, and that's based on many factors, groundwater infiltration into the sanitary, a variety of different things on just how now our sanitary system works. It's not a failure of our system, it's the fact that we've had a month's worth of June in a span of about 36 hours that no municipality has ever designed for. So it takes a bit of time and a lag for us to get caught up with the system. So that's the sanitary system, but that's also obviously affects our potable water. There was zero impact or zero risk that was identified to our potable water system. All of our main pump house, St. Vital pump house, all of that remains secure. It met all the guidelines for Alberta Environment. We provided regular updates to Alberta Environment and to our public health inspector and to that department. That's done every day to give an insight on what the status is on our things. But all of our issues that we're having is our wastewater, our sanitary system, and how much that we can push out. Many municipalities are experiencing the same thing. What makes challenging for Beaumont is just the lay of the land on how our community is, and some of our areas are very low compared to other municipalities where they can get rid of wastewater a lot faster than we can. Our system is just trying to catch up with that. It takes some challenges. Now, the unfortunate part is there more weather that's not going to help us in the next several days, including the weekend. We'll have some more updates as we get some finer details and more confirmation on what that weather looks like. But rain is in the forecast. Although tomorrow and Thursday will be nice weather, we are building plans to deal with some of the challenges that we're facing because there's still residents in this community that still have backed up basements from Saturday. So we're trying to fix those issues. What we don't want is everything is fine and then now we're flooding out more homes than we initially did. So we're putting messaging out. We're trying to explain to the public more from a technical aspect what exactly is going on. And unfortunately, it's all underground that people can't see. And that's the issue. But we've been in contact. We've had several meetings with our utility company, with EPCOR, with the province of Alberta, Alberta Environment, Public Health, our team here, our waste and water folks. We have all the people at the table providing us all the right advice so that we can pass that on through the CEO and to council on exactly this is what we're happening as the best information that we know.
Great, thank you. Thanks for all the work and thanks for that explanation. I think that helps too.
Make sure I turn this off. Thank you so much. I don't see any other more questions here for you. Thank you, Chief Melvin. Appreciate it. CAO, did you want to add?
The only thing I want to add is a thank you to the City of Leduc and the City of Edmonton who have offered or have supplied us with resources and continue to.
Yes, they were very grateful for our neighbors Very grateful. Any other comments or questions about the update? Okay. We are good on that. Do we need to receive it as information, Madam Clerk? Okay. Then we'll move on to new councillor inquiries. Do we have any new councillor inquiries?
Thank you, Mayor. I do not have any new councillor inquiries this evening.
Okay. How about notices of motion?
I do have one notice of motion.
Okay.
Bigger for you, Mayor.
I can read it. It's just, wow, it's long. Okay.
Well, I'll kind of scroll down as you go here. All right. Is that big enough there?
All right, so I can't speak to this right now. I'm just going to read it. At July 17, 2026 regular council meeting, I will move that council rescind the motion adopted on May 26, 2026 regular council meeting, which reads that by July 21st, 2026, Committee of the Whole meeting administration provide a report outlining options to ensure the existing residential character of established neighborhoods is preserved, including restricting or regulating development or redevelopment of individual parcels, and that the report include, at minimum, an analysis of potential planning, land use bylaw amendments, zoning considerations, density implications, if any, and any legal authority impacts on property rights, and that no further action be required by administration, and that by the end of September 2026, administration, as part of the planning framework renewal update, report back to council with the scope and estimated costs required to prepare amendments to the land use bylaw that would limit residential development to a maximum of one dwelling unit per lot, preserve the existing character, scale, and built form of residential neighborhoods, and prohibit the subdivision of existing residential parcels. And I think that we are done. Looks like we have nothing else on our calendar, right, schedule? Awesome. So we officially adjourn at 8:20. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for pushing on that. People just don't